If I had a chance to send somebody a message that's thinking about recovery, I think it would be just try. Somebody loves you, and somebody needs you, and you deserve it. You deserve a life. You deserve to be happy. You deserve better than what you're allowing yourself to have right now.
I think silence keeps people sick. And one of my goals is to make substance use disorder a talkable subject so that we can have success at getting people into treatment.
But if you're not alive, you cannot recover. You cannot be in recovery. You don't have the chance to try to be in recovery. And everybody should have that chance, no matter how many times it takes.
This community is beautiful in terms of our resources for substance use, treatment, recovery, harm reduction. However, I think what we need to remember at the end of the day is that everyone's journey is unique.
Research is pretty clear. The communities that have done best with this are ones where the schools and the churches and the local government and the local medical organizations and volunteer and community organizations all work together to say, this is a big puzzle and we need to work on every little piece.
Everybody in my family, mother's and father's side, has addiction, still too. I grew up, my sister was a severe drug addict. And I always grew up saying, I would never do that. That's not what I want in my life. And it's just so weird that it just happened, kind of.
I think being the parent of a child that has substance abuse disorder it's a trip nobody wants to take. It's terrifying. It's like riding a roller coaster that never stops. We've been through rehabs, we've been through detox, we've been through jails, we've been through ODs. I've had phone calls in the middle of the night, and I just stop breathing for a second because I'm terrified to answer it. It's watching that child that you raised and you love, and all of a sudden, there's somebody you don't know anymore. Once it gets hold of you, it doesn't matter what kind of person you are. He was actually in a car accident and got prescribed OxyContin, and that was where it started. This month, 4 years ago, I went to my first meeting of friends and families of addicts that is through Opiate Free Island Project. The support group is wonderful because you need that chance to know it's okay. It's okay if you're angry and you want to lash out. It's okay if you just need to cry and you're somewhere safe. It's a safe place. Whether you choose to see it or not, it's here. You have somebody in your family. And the longer you close your eyes and you refuse to see it, the longer you're helping add to the numbers of the people that die every year. I don't want my son to be another number.
Addiction is something that runs in my family. My father was an alcoholic, although he was a recovering alcoholic when I knew him. And I know it's something that different members of our family have struggled with differently. I knew a long time ago when I was young that there were things that I liked too much, and that if I wanted to be okay, I just had to stay away from them. But not so for all members of our family. And I lost my younger sister, Debbie, to overdose of opioid medications in 2012. Debbie was fun. She laughed a lot. She was a very emotional person. She was in a car accident and they prescribed opioids for her. And then it was just a downward spiral from there. She just kept getting more and more. So by the time she passed away, I got a phone call saying that Debbie was dead. And her son had found her in the morning on the floor, dead. The state trooper came, and when we counted, he had us help count the pills that were left in her bottles, and the prescriptions had just been filled the day before. And she had 12 different bottles of pills at that point. I was racked with guilt for years, thinking there should have been some way that I could have saved her. While I thought about getting the family together and trying to do an intervention on our own, I felt like it would just push her the other way. I don't know. I mean, I'll never know. And that's what it is. But there's so many other resources out there now. And there's all sorts of resources to help get people into recovery and to support them while they're in recovery. And just, there is help, and all you have to do is reach out and ask for it. And there's much better chances for a positive outcome as opposed to 8 years ago.
So part of the motivation for me to take this position is I was dealing with active substance use in my family as a child in the 90s, and it's 2022, and this is still a significant issue here. But what was super impressed upon me is that we have not changed the narrative in almost 30 years. We don't talk about this. This is still silent. This is still quiet. And I think the thing that excites me the most is I can feel that shift happening now. It's 30 years later, and we're still dealing with this. But what we are starting to not deal with is the silence. We are starting to see a shift in the willingness to discuss this. We are starting to see a shift in the desire to support people. And I am really excited to think about what an island community looks like where this is a talkable subject, because I think we will see dramatic shifts in people's willingness and ability to get treatment and care when it's safe to have a conversation about your substance use. One of the newest programs that we've been able to bring to the island is evidence-based harm reduction services. That includes Narcan, fentanyl test strips, and a syringe service program. The goal of harm reduction services is to keep people alive long enough to get into treatment. Dead people cannot get into treatment, so we need to be able to offer the one thing we know that has the likelihood of reducing risk of death. OFIP trains community members to carry Narcan. This is medical intervention for a life-threatening emergency. It takes 6 minutes to be brain dead, and we don't have a 6-minute response time on the island. So what Narcan does in as many community members' hands as possible is it can prevent death, it can prevent significant consequences from an overdose. If we can intervene in what would be a life-threatening event, we can sometimes help people get to sustained recovery. This is a disease that's often really hopeless, and people impacted by it affected others, the person who actually has the disease themselves. There's this degree of hopelessness around them and worthlessness. And I think as we think about why is this important to us as a community, this island shows up for each other, and we do a good job taking care of each other, and that's what our history is, and that's one of the things that I think most of us who have grown up here love the most about this place. And I think if we can increase people's self-worth, we have the opportunity to have some real hard conversations about what their readiness for change is, and maybe help them to make sustainable changes. And I think if we don't do that, if we ignore harm reduction as a part of the services that we offer to this community. What we're doing is we're isolating probably some of our most vulnerable community members, and that jeopardizes everybody's welfare.
You know, there used to be the old concept of, oh, these were junkies, they weren't worth saving. Everybody's worth saving. And it cuts across all socioeconomic strata, such that we want to be there quickly, and we want to have the supplies to save these people. My role as an EMT and the role of the entire ambulance service has been dramatically impacted by the opioid crisis that has struck our island and so many other places too. We're not unique in that regard. We need to be able to act very quickly, ascertain what it is, and then treat it, most likely with Narcan, and also sometimes oxygen, or whatever it takes. Naloxone is absolutely critical to have everywhere in the community, so it's available when this happens. People are knowledgeable about Narcan. They know how to use it, and they do use it because this is their buddy that just OD'd. I think I would just like people to know that the opioid crisis is all around us. We don't want to close our eyes and say, oh, it's not here. It's here. Anybody can become an opioid addict, and it's not a disgrace. That's why we need effective treatment programs and understanding from the community.
In my opinion, therapy is extremely critical in any MAT program. Oftentimes when someone is using substances, they are living a life that's really chaotic and unstable. And, you know, a lot of their sort of world and life centers around substance use. It can be really hard to know what life is like outside of that substance use. And so in therapy, you know, people are learning how to live. They're learning what their triggers are. They're learning healthy coping skills. They're learning how to form healthy relationships. Oftentimes when someone's using substances, there's a lot of unhealthy patterns, unhealthy relationships and dynamics that are happening. And so a lot of times too, just in my experience, a lot of our MAT patients also have a mental health diagnosis. You know, this is a small island and most everyone knows everyone. I grew up here, I live here, I work here, I'm raising my family here, and so the health and well-being of this community is really important to me. And I feel like because we are so small and secluded, there can be a lot of barriers around having access to care and treatment. And so by having more of a harm reduction model in our community, it's not only educating and better preparing our future generation, it's also helping to destigmatize substance use. It's helping to spread awareness and education in our community. It's helping to keep people safe and our community safe. Since I've really been working here in the last, 4 to 5 years, we've had too many overdose deaths here in this community. And I just feel like if there was more of this harm reduction model, these supports in our community, how much better and safer that would be for all of us.
Counseling is very important. As people have addictions, a lot of times they have been self-medicating for treating a certain anxiety, depression, chronic pain. And then when you stop that, they leave a hole. So counseling is a way for you to learn how to deal with the problem that you're treating with the addiction. So, medication therapy does go a long way. Non-medication therapy can go a long way. Together, they're beneficial much longer. We're here for you. So if we can get rid of the stigmata, people are more likely to come for recovery and be more successful at it.
I wanted to become a recovery coach because my son is in recovery and that resonates with me. He found his path. He's in long-term recovery. But I saw how stressful that was on our family, on him, and I thought, are you kidding me? There's recovery coaching. You can help remove barriers. You can help people achieve their goals. You can be there to support them. And this was my opportunity to really learn and understand, and also to give back to my community and help people that need it. If you're thinking about recovery, that's wonderful. Let's talk about it. Let's see what you need to do to get there. When I'm coaching with somebody, I find the success in small steps. You trust me, I trust you. We have mutual respect. We're now working together. We share ideas. We're collaborating, and I can see that is the best way to get to your goals.
The opposite of addiction is connection. And so I want everyone to feel connected, and I love the recovery coach model for really connecting people and letting that person in recovery know that they're not alone, that they have someone there who's going to be there every step of the way and help them achieve the goals that they've set. Back in 2020, Island Health and Wellness Foundation launched what we call the Just for the Health of It podcast. And in the podcast, I interview people who are positively affecting in some way the health of our community. And it really came to the surface that there is a lot of work being done here at the county and at the state level when it comes to substance use. And that's treatment, recovery, harm reduction, prevention. So my hope is that by listening to the podcast, that people will keep putting these resources in their personal toolkits so when they have these conversations with their friends and neighbors, they can say, oh, I just heard something on that. This is where you need to go. And at the end of the day, an educated community who understands what's available is going to be an ally, and they're really going to help people be able to access the services they need when they need them.
You know, the Sheriff's Department does a lot of different things to work in with the problems that we have with drugs. All of our deputies carry Narcan with them in case that they get called to an overdose. We have connections where if someone wants some help, finally gets to the point where I need help, that we can find those resources for them. We can connect those with resources. For those that, the unfortunate ones that end up in jail, we have counseling services, we have medically assisted treatment, we have numerous other programs to assist people with an opiate problem or any drug problem. And particularly with opiate problems, when they leave, we issue them all Narcan when they go. I've always said it's a three-piece stool. It's education, it's treatment, and it's enforcement. And if you don't have all three of those, you're not going to be successful. So I really think that we need to be responsible with the education piece too. We need to start at a young age educating young people as to the seriousness of drugs and how deadly they are. I mean, when you start looking at fentanyl, how dangerous and deadly that is, we need to let the young people say, this isn't fun and games, you know, this isn't going buying a candy bar, you're playing with your life. So we absolutely need to start with education. We're lucky to have a lot of organizations that realize how serious the drug problem is out there and looking after the people of the communities, and we need more of that, and we need to support more of that.
Our recovery center came to be as part of the governor's opioid response team. The goal was to have a state facility, a state recovery center in every one of the counties here in Maine. And Healthy Acadia submitted a proposal, and we were chosen as the space for the recovery center. And really, it's a perfect fit with the work that Healthy Acadia does. And honestly, even just in the short time that we've been open, I can't imagine it having been anywhere else in Hancock County. I want this to be a place where people can come and be themselves and not feel judged, not feel stigmatized. I want it to be a place that our community looks at as a place of positivity. And I want it to be a place that helps to transform the community into a more recovery-friendly community.
I think having a recovery center is important for all communities. You know, I think it gives people a place to feel welcome and to be a safe place for people to come in and, you know, learn about recovery, hear about recovery, work on their recovery, and it just, you know, be a place for people to, you know, get back to maybe who they once were before, you know, substances took over their lives.
We have several people every year die of drug overdose. We've just had people recently found dead at home. Just keeps on happening. When you get dependent on a substance, it actually makes physical changes in your brain. Things get rewired. Your brain doesn't work like it's supposed to. We can see on the MRI scans, we can see on the functional scans that the circuits are different. And that leads to severe craving for the drug. It leads to loss of control over behaviors normally because just things aren't wired right. So if we look at that and say, well, substance abuse is a brain disease, and those people deserve our compassion, and we need to be patient with them because these changes don't occur overnight. They don't go away overnight with treatment.
I was into opiates. It was mostly heroin. I was an IV user for a couple years. I'd say I started experimenting with drugs when I was about 14. I started an active addiction, I would say, when I was about 16. So I saw, I think it was on TV or the news or something about methadone treatment, and a lot of people on the island had tried it. So I called, and within a week I started methadone treatment, and that's where I've been. I was able to do things and not be sick all the time. My kids started making little comments of, "Mom, you're not so tired all the time," or "Mom, you actually come out of your room," or "You're not yelling at us anymore." It was just like little things that I noticed. I didn't mind going out in the living room and playing with them, versus before I was just too sick or just didn't have it in me to do it. I'd just say just to try it, just to do it, even if it takes a million times. Keep trying.
We're all citizens. We all live on this island. We're all part of the community.
And so I think if someone were to come to me and ask for resources or for help, I would probably refer them first to the Opiate Free Island Partnership. When someone is seeking recovery or seeking treatment or harm reduction, their situation can look very different.
There are many paths. It doesn't matter which path you choose. It matters that it works for you. I have watched enough people be able to get their lives back that I know this is possible, and just keep trying.
You can call OFIP here on the island, and they also know about recovery coaching. They know how to get you to the right place to start your journey. Just about anybody can help you if we network out and we all kind of come together as a community.